You guys get any information on the French Revolution in world history? No? Anybody know when it happened?
No.
It happened in the spring of 1789. Now this was back, we're going back, right? Because this was the time that Washington was elected the first time, right? But it started back in the spring of 1789. And what happened is a revolution broke out in France, known as the French Revolution. What is a revolution, Mr. Padilla? We could have one in here. People get sick and tired of what I'm doing. People revolt against the system, right? Okay, well, there was a revolution in France in the spring of 1789 where revolutionists overthrew the government. Okay, and who ran the government in France? Think about it. Was it a democracy, or was it run by monarchy, right? Kings and queens. And the people that ran France were the upper class people and royalty. And so when the French revolutionists decided to overthrow France, who were they overthrowing? The upper class and royalty. I would just put that a revolution broke out in the country of France in 1789, in which revolutionists overthrew the upper class and royalty. They took over the government. Now they were brutal. You know what they did to the upper class people and royalty? Killed them, and even worse, beheaded them. Beheaded them. Anybody seen the movie Braveheart with Mel Gibson, where they behead him at the end? Put you on a big piece of wood, big log, and they bring this anvil over and cut your head right off into a bucket.
Is that even worse? Because once you die like super fast.
Well, I don't think I think it would be, I don't think you'd feel it, but the thought process, and people would watch this like you're watching a basketball game. Yep. I'm not lying. Yeah, I guess so, but
That's how it works.
yeah, yeah. Now, many people were killed, many members of the upper class and royalty were killed or beheaded, usually both. That's how you were killed, was beheaded. Yeah.
What year did the revolution
Started in the spring of 1789. And it was the revolutionists against the upper class and royalty. This was a bloody battle. Many people were either killed or beheaded, or both, in the bloody conflict. And among those that were beheaded were King Louis XIV and Queen Marie Antoinette. So among those beheaded in the French Revolution were King Louis XIV. It's on your ID sheet, actually. And his Queen Marie Antoinette. They were among the upper class and royalty. They didn't stop anywhere except at the top. When you behead the king and the queen, you've made a statement. Yeah.
Louis XVI?
Louis the 16th. You're right. Thank you. Louis the 16th. Thank you. Roman numeral man there. Attaboy. Yeah, King Louis the 16th. Sorry. King Louis the 16th and Queen Marie Antoinette. Can anybody else know your Roman numerals very well? They do the Super Bowls, like Super Bowl 53, and they do it Roman numerals. I'm going. Although, do you know why they call a $100 bill a C note? Anybody heard that before? 100 is C in Roman numerals. Yeah. Anyway, among those beheaded were King Louis the 16th and Queen Marie Antoinette. Now, when the revolution ended, fellas, when the revolution ended successfully, a new government was established in France. These revolutionists took over the monarchy and started their own government, and the monarchy regime went away. Now, who is France's biggest rival in Europe? What? Great Britain. And Great Britain favored the monarchy. So when they were overthrown, Great Britain was not happy with the new government in France. So Great Britain did not favor the new leadership in France. They favored the monarchy, because that's what they had. Okay? So as a result of Great Britain not favoring the new leadership in France, in 1793, Great Britain declared war against this new French government. Okay? Again, because Great Britain did not favor this revolution nor the new leadership in France, in 1793, Great Britain declared war against this new French government. Now, think about that. Why does that affect the United States?
Because they both are allies.
Well, they're not our allies, but we don't want them both to be our enemies. You know what I'm saying? So the United States is going to be put in a really bad position here because France is going to want the United States to support them, and Great Britain's going to want the United States to support them. So we're going to get caught in the middle, and we're a brand new nation. Well, what happened, what were we doing with both countries at the time? Trading, right? So if we were sending supplies to France, what did Great Britain do? They seized our ships. If we were sending supplies to Great Britain, what did France do? Seized our ships. So both France and Great Britain began seizing American ships that were carrying goods to both warring countries. Now that's bad enough. They seized the American ships, but in turn, they took the sailors and forced them to serve in their military. That was the bad part about it. We could almost live with them seizing the supplies, but then they took our sailors and impressed them. What impressed means is you serve in a different military. So I'll read that again. Both France and Great Britain began seizing American ships that were carrying goods to both warring countries. The French seized American ships carrying goods to the British, and in turn the British seized American ships carrying goods to France. On both sides, the seizure of American ships led to the capture of American sailors who were forced to serve in either the French or the British Navy. So what did Americans do? They started taking sides. Some Americans favored Britain, some Americans favored France. And it all came down to two rivals within the United States. Who was representing the Southerners in the Assumption Bill? Thomas Jefferson. Who was representing the Northerners in the Assumption Bill? Alexander Hamilton. It was no different here. So Alexander Hamilton in the North favored Great Britain in this conflict, whereas Thomas Jefferson in the South favored France. So who's stuck in the middle of this whole thing? President George Washington. Now, what might make the decision on which way we support it? Maybe we're not even realizing that we have to support one or the other. What would make it so we had to pick a side? What? One more time? No? Think about this, Rick. I really want you to get this. This is what we're going to end on today.
Like one of the countries saying you're either with us or against us.
But why would they say that? Brady's close. One of the countries came to the United States and said, hey, by the way, you're for us. Why would they have the right to say that?
Because we owe them money.
No, close, you're getting there. Why would they have the right to come to us? And by the way, it was France that came to us and said, by God, you are going to support us, not Great Britain. Why would they have the guts to say that?
Did we steal all money?
No.
We support this.
When? When? You did right. We signed a treaty with them called the Treaty of 1778. When we needed their help against the British in the Revolutionary War, they came and helped us. And now they're saying, wait a minute. You signed this treaty in 1778 saying that you would not bear arms, that you would not support the British. We came to your aid when you needed it. Now we need you to come to our aid when we need it. Very, very good. What happened is the United States was still bound by an old treaty they had signed with France during the Revolutionary War, and it was called the Treaty of 1778, which is on your ID sheet. Now guess what we're going to do tomorrow? We're going to tell you how they got out of that situation and tried to stay neutral. Because they want to stay neutral. What would be the biggest reason they wanted to stay neutral?
So they wouldn't get inside.
Well, maybe.
War trade.
No. Why, though? Because our military is weak. The last thing we can afford is a war. So we've got to stay neutral. We've got to see how Washington pulls off getting out of the Treaty of 1778. And we'll tell you that tomorrow. Those of you that won't be here tomorrow because of yearbook, please make sure you get the notes.